This is not a speech to motivate you. It is a summons, a spiritual reawakening, a call to arms for the man who has drifted from the voice of his Creator, the voice that once whispered, "You were meant for more." This message is not designed for the man who seeks comfort, applause, or quick reward. It is written for the soul who feels misaligned, misplaced, or forgotten, not by God, but by himself. Inside this message lies a blueprint, not for riches alone, not for fame, but for divine purpose. The kind of purpose that pulls mountains from your path and writes your name into the legacy of eternity. If you listen with your heart and not just your ears, you will find the clarity you lost and the fire you once carried. Now, we begin the return to who God meant you to be. There is no such thing as a man born without a mission. It is not in the nature of the Creator to waste material. Every soul that takes breath was issued from the furnace of divine intention, clothed in flesh for the purpose of completion. And yet, how many men walk the earth with eyes downcast, voices uncertain, lives drifting like leaves in a stream with no memory of where they came from or where they are going? The tragedy is not that they failed, it is that they forgot. They forgot the instruction whispered into their spirit before they ever spoke their first word. They forgot the code written into their conscience, the one that cannot be erased, only ignored. The purpose of a man's life is not a mystery to be uncovered in some future year, nor is it a treasure buried beneath thousands of books or behind the opinions of others. It is not something you find by accident or stumble into through the praise of men. Purpose is not discovered, it is obeyed. And it has been calling you since the first moment you realized that you were different, that there was something in you that did not settle, that could not be soothed by mediocrity, that even in your worst moment there was a whisper, "This is not where you belong." Andrew Carnegie was not born with steel in his hands. He was born with clarity in his soul. He saw poverty, yes, but he did not agree with it. He made a vow, early and unseen by the world, that if he ever held wealth, he would never hoard it. He would use it to build, to instruct, to uplift. That vow was not ambition. It was obedience to the design of his creation. And in that vow, he began to walk with the certainty of a man on assignment. He did not ask the world to approve his mission. He acted as if heaven had already commissioned it, and it had. Henry Ford was told the automobile was foolish, that he should settle for building wagons, perhaps repairing machines for a wage. But the purpose inside him would not allow it. It stirred him in silence. It demanded repetition. And so, while others laughed, he moved with mathematical precision. He did not try to invent from the outside in, he moved from the inside out. He knew what he was to build long before the world saw it. That is the mark of purpose. It precedes applause. Abraham Lincoln was not raised to unify a divided nation. He was not born into greatness. He was forged in rejection, grief, and solitude. But deep in his soul, there was a charge, a weight. And when the time came, it was not talent that raised him. It was resolve. It was the alignment of identity with divine intention. When a man chooses to act not from emotion, but from calling, no matter the cost, he becomes the man God meant him to be. And so I ask you, have you been living from the assignment or from the applause? Have you been listening to the whisper of heaven or the noise of the crowd? Are you waiting for permission to move, or are you remembering who you were before fear taught you to be cautious? Your emptiness is not a lack of achievement. It is the result of ignoring the original instruction. You cannot fill a man made for greatness with distractions. You cannot satisfy a soul designed to build with toys meant for children. You must return. Return not to more goals, but to purpose. And not your own version of purpose, but to the sacred original, the one written on your soul before you were ever aware of your own name. You do not need to invent your mission. You need only recall it and then obey. Affirmations. I was made on purpose for purpose. I am not lost. I am being led back. My existence is evidence of my assignment. Let every step from this moment forward be taken as if you remember who you are. The moment a man receives his calling is the moment a war begins. Not on the outside, but within. A war between the call and the couch, between movement and maintenance, between fire and familiarity. This is a battle not every man is willing to admit, for it is not always loud. In fact, most often it is subtle. It shows up not as terror, but as temptation. The temptation to rest when you should rise, to delay when you ought to deliver, to blend in when your spirit demands you stand out. But make no mistake, every man must choose. You may have comfort or you may have calling, but you may not have both. Purpose, I must tell you plainly, does not begin in pleasure. It begins in pressure. It arrives not with applause, but with tension. It demands something sacred before it gives anything visible. It does not invite you gently. It breaks into your life like a command. That is why most men never step into their true work. They are waiting for it to feel better. But God does not send purpose as a lullaby. He sends it as a wake-up call. And it will keep ringing until you rise, or until your silence becomes so habitual that even heaven no longer expects you to answer. Thomas Edison did not become the man we admire because he was more gifted than others. He became that man because he was willing to fail more often, for longer, and with more conviction than any man around him. He did not pray for comfort. He did not hope for rest. He walked into rejection like it was the proving ground of his purpose. 10,000 failed experiments are not the sign of a defeated man. They are the markings of one who has made peace with discomfort. For Edison, failure was not to be feared. It was to be exhausted until only success remained. Theodore Roosevelt's story is one of war in the flesh. He was not born with strength. His body was fragile, and his youth filled with sickness. But he was called, and he made a decision that would shape the rest of his life, that he would not allow comfort to make his choices. He trained his body not just to survive, but to endure. He built his character on the battlefield of discipline. His victories in leadership were simply echoes of his early defeats over weakness. He won the war of comfort long before he ever entered the halls of power. And then there is Edwin C. Barnes, the man who did not ask to be Edison's partner but declared it. He had no credentials, he had no invitation. He simply showed up and refused to act like a man who was optional. And when he was rejected, when he was told there was no seat for him, he did not retreat. He did not wander. He worked in the very same building for a menial wage and waited, not for opportunity, but for obedience to ripen. The calling burned so deep that no form of rejection could cool it. He was uncomfortable, yes, but he was aligned. And that was enough. Every day you are presented with the same decision. You will not find it on your calendar. It is not announced, but it is there, in the silence between the snooze button and your rising, in the moment you decide whether to speak or remain silent, in the space between thinking and doing, the decision, will I obey my soul or will I soothe my fear? There is a kind of comfort that masquerades as peace, but it is not peace, it is prison. It does not calm you, it cages you, and if you do not break from it, it will suffocate the man you were sent here to become. You may delay your calling, but you cannot delete it. And the longer you delay, the more uncomfortable your comfort will become. You will wake up with achievements and still feel empty. You will meet goals and still feel hollow. You will be praised and still know something vital is missing. That is the grief of a man who traded his purpose for his pillow. You must learn to reject ease as the primary measure of success. The purpose is not designed to be easy. It is designed to be eternal. And what is eternal cannot be approached casually. It must be met with fire. It must be answered with everything you are, or it will remain dormant, and your life will remain diluted. Let us now speak the affirmations that remind your soul who you truly are. I am the type of man who resists ease for excellence. Comfort does not lead me, conviction does. I choose pressure when it forges me. My purpose is more precious than my peace. I trade comfort for calling daily and without regret. Say them not as suggestions, but as declarations. Speak them until they speak back, until your habits rise to match your heart, until you can look your reflection in the mirror and say, I did not choose the soft way, I chose the sacred one. Purpose becomes power only when it is declared. Too many men live with vague longing in their soul, but no written vow in their hand. They whisper wishes, but they do not command outcomes. They are stirred with fire on Sunday, yet return to drift on Monday, not because they lack belief, but because they lack direction. The greatest tragedy is not a man without strength, but a man without an aim. Power unchanneled becomes chaos. The soul must be focused, clearly, forcefully, and faithfully. The definite chief aim is not a career. It is not a job title. It is not a position. It is the translation of your divine purpose into daily command. It is the one direction you have vowed to give your life to, the singular purpose you declare before men, before time, and before God Himself. A man who has written his aim is a man who has shaken hands with destiny. And destiny does not ignore a man who moves with such clarity. When a man writes his definite chief aim and reads it aloud with emotion, certainty, and daily repetition, he does something sacred. He does not merely state a goal, he gives heaven permission to activate what was already waiting. Your aim is not invented, it is remembered. And when it is written, when it is repeated with intensity, when your life begins to orbit around it, all the forces that were once against you begin to align in your favor. This is not magic, this is spiritual law. And law never fails the man who obeys it fully. Andrew Carnegie, whose name is now etched in the stone of history, was not merely a man of industry. He was a man of exact purpose. His definite chief aim was to amass wealth, not as a monument to his name, but as a tool to bless generations. He declared early on, I will build an enterprise so vast, it shall serve not just me, but mankind. He carried that aim like a holy scripture. He spoke of it, planned from it, and gave orders through it. When trials came, and they did, his aim held him upright, for a man who walks by divine vow is not easily shaken. Henry Ford, too, was a man of singular aim. His desire to build an automobile for the common man was not simply a dream, it was a divine assignment. He did not dilute his aim to appease investors or trends. He repeated it so often, internally and externally, that even when the world laughed, his subconscious believed. And when your subconscious believes your command, it will go to war for you while you sleep. To the man reading this, you must write your definite chief aim, not tomorrow, not after more thinking, today. It does not need to be poetic, it must be precise. It must stir your soul when you read it aloud. It must remind you who you are and where you are going. It must make your bones vibrate with duty. Here is how you begin. Sit in silence. Ask not, what do I want to achieve? But what assignment was I placed on this earth to fulfill? Then listen, not to the noise of logic, but to the whisper of truth. It may come as a picture, it may come as a phrase, but when it arrives, write it, carve it, speak it. Once you have written your aim, speak it aloud twice a day, once in the morning to command your day, and once in the evening to instruct your subconscious before it works through the night. Put it where your eyes cannot avoid it. On your mirror, your door, your desk. It should haunt you. It should command you. It should become as familiar as your own name. Here are affirmations to install this law within you. My aim is written in heaven and spoken by me. I declare what I build, and then I build it. My definite chief aim governs my day and guides my steps. I speak my purpose until the world aligns. My vision is my vow. My vow is my foundation. Let me leave you with this. The man who walks without an aim walks in circles. He may be moving, but he is not advancing. The man who declares his aim becomes a force that heaven assists, hell fears, and the world eventually obeys. A man cannot walk two roads and expect to reach one destination. He cannot serve two masters, his future and his past, and expect harmony. One will rule, one must die, and it is in this truth that most men are secretly undone. For while they cry out to heaven for purpose, power, and transformation, they cling still to the customs, comforts, and cowardice of their former self. They pray for elevation, yet protect their excuses. They write new declarations, yet speak with the tongue of their old bondage, and so they remain conflicted, divided, double-minded. But let this be written plainly. You cannot enter the house of your destiny dressed in the garments of yesterday. Every transformation requires a funeral, not of your body, but of your former identity, not of your skills, but of your habits, your patterns, your loyalty to fear and to delay. The old self is cunning. It wears the language of logic. It whispers, be realistic. It delays under the banner of wisdom. But make no mistake, this voice is not guidance. It is guardianship of the man you were meant to outgrow. In Outwitting the Devil, I revealed that hypnotic rhythm is the silent force that keeps the old man alive. It does not scream, it repeats, slowly, subtly, until without knowing, the man of destiny becomes a man of memories. He rehearses his past more than he visualizes his future. He obeys old triggers more than divine truth. He returns again and again to the patterns he claimed to have left behind. Not because he lacks belief, but because he refuses to kill what must die. This death is not one of violence. It is one of decision. It is the man saying aloud, I no longer respond as I once did. I no longer think as I once thought. I no longer carry the voice of fear in my mouth. This is not motivation. It is a ritual rejection of the former identity. And until that ritual is made sacred and final, progress will always be partial. Consider Abraham Lincoln, who was once plagued by indecision and emotional vulnerability. In his early years, he was hesitant, overly sympathetic to voices around him, deferential to popular opinion. But at the crossroads of war and unity, he changed. He silenced every whisper of his former self and chose instead a spirit of steel. He became immovable, not because his emotions disappeared, but because he placed purpose above hesitation. He did not carry both men into leadership. He buried one. And from that burial rose the president history remembers. So too must you choose. The man you were is familiar, yes, but he must not be allowed to speak anymore. You must starve him. You must contradict him. You must out-ritual him. You cannot keep the identity that apologized, that delayed, that waited for clarity before moving, for that man was loyal to fear. And fear is not fit to lead a man of calling. Here is how to begin the burial. Take a piece of paper. Write down the name of your former self, not the one given at birth, but the name he lived under. Mr. Maybe, the drifter, the doubter, the one who waits. Then list every trait he carried. He overthought. He hesitated. He broke promises to himself. He feared judgment. He made excuses in the name of wisdom. Then say aloud, I thank you for bringing me this far, but you may not follow me into destiny. Burn the paper. And every time that voice reappears, you answer not with debate, but with silence. For the dead do not speak. This death must be sealed with action. You must speak differently, walk differently, set your alarm earlier, refuse to explain your new choices. You are not negotiating with the world. You are demonstrating obedience to God's call. You are walking forward without apology. Affirmations to make this death permanent. The man I was is no longer allowed to speak. I walk forward without apology. My future is holy, and my past is buried. I am no longer becoming, I am now. I serve only one master, and he calls me higher. Let it be known, No man ever reached destiny by dragging his doubt behind him. You must travel light, and the heaviest weight on your shoulders is not your trials. It is the man you refuse to leave behind. There comes a moment in every man's journey when he must stop asking, "What should I do?" and begin declaring, "This is who I am." The tragedy of countless lives is not a lack of calling, but a delay in stepping into the character required by that calling. Too many men wait for the world's permission to begin acting like the man they were born to be. They sit in silence, hoping that one day success will give them a reason to stand taller, to speak with conviction, to walk with discipline. But hear me now. The world does not crown you before you behave like a king. It observes your posture, your poise, your presence, and only then does it respond in kind. A man of purpose does not wait to be seen as great before he conducts himself with greatness. He walks like him now, he speaks like him now, he eats, works, and rises like the man he desires to become. Not because the world already recognizes it, but because he does. It is this inner conviction, this decision to embody the end result before it is visible, that separates the men who drift from the men who dominate. Consider the example of Edwin C. Barnes. He did not approach Edison with timid language or a posture of hope. He did not beg for a chance to prove himself. He arrived, dressed, walking, speaking, as though he was already the partner he desired to become. He did not ask for permission to believe. He embodied belief. He cleaned floors, yes, but with the gaze and gait of a man already embedded in the inner workings of genius. Barnes was not acting. He was activating. And the world around him, Edison included, eventually bent to match what Barnes had already chosen to become. This is the secret most men miss. Success is not awarded for compliance. It is magnetized by identity. The way you sit in a chair, the clarity with which you speak, the certainty in your eyes, these are not minor details. They are blueprints. Your every movement tells your subconscious who you are. Slouched shoulders are not neutral. They are confessions of doubt. A wandering gaze is not subtle. It is a signal of confusion. And when you allow these minor lapses, you are preaching sermons to your own soul. Sermons that reinforce the lie that you are still becoming, not already built. You must begin today, this very moment, to practice the presence of the man you are destined to become. Stand like him. Do not rush through rooms as though your presence is an afterthought. Walk slowly, with deliberate steps. Breathe with composure. Eat without haste. Sit upright, spine like a sword. Speak only when words build the structure of your future. Make every motion a declaration, not to others, but to yourself. You are teaching your mind how to house your future. Do not mistake this for vanity. It is not about suits or surface. It is about signal. Posture is not performance. It is preparation. It is spiritual obedience to the identity heaven already designed for you. The man who behaves with clarity before he is seen clearly is the man who receives the spotlight without being blinded by it. Even your tone must align. You cannot speak in a whisper and expect the world to respond with thunder. Train your voice, not to impress, but to instruct. Practice clarity. Eliminate filler words. Remove the phrase, "I don't know." It is a dangerous spell that reaffirms weakness. Replace it with, "Let me think," or "I will decide." Because the man you are becoming does not seek escape routes in language. He forges paths with it. You must even examine your rituals. Does the man you wish to become rise at dawn or sleep until noon? Does he prepare his space for discipline or walk through clutter? Does he check devices first or speak aloud his definite chief aim before the world has a chance to distract him? Every detail counts. Every step must harmonize with the song of your calling. You are not pretending, you are pre-living, and if your mind ever questions you, if it dares whisper, "But it's not real yet," you reply, "It is real in the only place that matters first, in my spirit, in my mind, in my movement." The rest is simply catching up. Now declare this aloud, not as affirmation alone, but as identity installation. I am the man I am becoming. I do not wait to be chosen. I show I was made for this. I walk like my future is already mine. My posture is prophecy. My behavior obeys my vision. Let this be your daily creed. My habits are not the shadow of my past. They are the rehearsal of my purpose. And from this moment forward, I walk like him now. Purpose is not something you stumble upon once and then keep forever. It is not a possession. It is a relationship. And like every sacred relationship, it must be renewed daily, nourished through ritual, and strengthened by devotion. A man does not become great by one act, no matter how grand. He becomes great by building an altar to his purpose and returning to it every morning and every night. Discipline is not punishment. It is the highest form of reverence. It is the acknowledgement that what I am building is worthy of my loyalty, my repetition, and my full emotional attention. You see, the modern man looks for magic in the extraordinary. But every successful man I have ever studied understood the truth. The miraculous is hidden in the mundane when performed with intention. Elbert Hubbard, that brilliant craftsman of both thought and enterprise, treated his writing like worship. Each morning he rose not because he had to, but because his soul demanded he meet his purpose before the world attempted to interrupt it. He was not waiting for the muse to visit him. He was building the temple so she would know where to dwell. Likewise, Henry Ford did not manufacture an industry out of excitement. He did so out of sacred consistency. He was methodical to the point of reverence. He believed in the rhythm of excellence. His men knew that even if the machinery failed, Ford's discipline would not. That was his real engine, not steel, but soul. And his company was not founded in chaos, but in daily order. It was his spiritual obedience to routine that made his name one of permanence. Every man who becomes the embodiment of purpose has a place, whether it is a desk, a quiet room, a walk at sunrise, where he meets himself daily and commands his destiny. This is not superstition. It is system. I call it your daily altar, and without it, you will live scattered, subject to every distraction, every emotion, every new voice that demands your time. The altar is your act of refusal. It says to the world, I do not belong to you. I belong to what made me. Your altar must not be extravagant. It must only be intentional. It is not for show. It is for submission. When you rise, go first to your altar, not to a screen, not to the noise of men, but to the whisper of your own instruction. Begin with writing. Why? Because writing is the visible evidence of invisible thought. What you write, you program. Take your definite chief aim. Write it, not once, daily. Write until it is etched into your nervous system, until your subconscious no longer questions if you are worthy, because it has accepted that you already are. Next, speak. Declare aloud the man you are becoming. Recite your affirmations with posture, not slouching, with tone, not muttering. You are not making wishes. You are issuing orders. Your voice is not for complaining or casual talk. It is your wand, your sword, your scalpel. Speak boldly. I am the man God trusts with this mission. I walk in purpose, not in pause. My mind is aligned with my vision. You are not begging heaven. You are partnering with it. And then, silence. Solitude is not loneliness. It is leadership. The man who cannot be still cannot hear instruction. The great men were often lonely, not because they were unloved, but because they loved purpose more than noise. Lincoln, in moments of national agony, would retreat into thought, not to escape, but to prepare. Do you not see? Your ability to sit in silence is your spiritual maturity made visible. The undisciplined man needs noise. The man of purpose needs alignment. This practice, write, declare, sit, is not optional. It is essential. Your altar is the throne room of your future. Every morning you approach it, you place another brick in the mansion of your legacy. And if you ever feel resistance, remember, resistance is proof you are near something holy. The mind rebels against submission only when it fears transformation. And so you push through. Rituals shape identity. Your habits are not small, they are holy. When you declare your definite chief aim aloud, when you write the man you are becoming, when you bow in silence to receive direction, you are not just reinforcing belief, you are reconstructing the scaffolding of your soul. You are turning chaos into clarity, fear into function, and distraction into dominion. Now listen closely. Do not delay. Set the place now. Choose your hour now. Prepare your journal, your pen, your mirror, your words, and return every single day, even if tired, especially when tired. That is when it counts, because you are not training for convenience. You are training for command. Let these affirmations become the pillars of your altar. I return to my mission daily. My habits are holy. They shape my soul. Each morning is my covenant with greatness. I am never too tired to meet with the man I was born to become. My altar is the birthplace of my future. Now rise. Clear the space. Begin tomorrow with fire. And do not let a single day pass where you forget who you are and what you've been sent here to build. No man climbs alone. No man fulfills divine purpose in isolation. And no man becomes who God intended him to be while surrounded by voices that do not recognize his call. If you look around and find yourself surrounded by drifters, men without aim, without direction, without fire, then it is no wonder your flame feels faint. The company you keep is the echo chamber of your destiny. The men you dine with, dream with, rise and rest beside, they either sharpen your edge or dull your spirit. There is no neutral influence. Every conversation is either constructing your vision or corroding it. Understand this. The mastermind is not a social club. It is a covenant. It is not about shared interest. It is about shared intensity. The mastermind is a spiritual law. It is the alignment of two or more minds in perfect harmony, each committed to the highest outcome of the other. It is sacred, not because of the people, but because of the purpose. When I studied Andrew Carnegie, what struck me was not only his drive, but his circle. And among those in his closest confidence was Charles M. Schwab, a man younger, less proven, but ablaze with conviction. Carnegie did not surround himself with those who stroked his ego. He chose men who confronted mediocrity, who refused to let him coast, who demanded he reach higher. Schwab was more than an employee. He was a mastermind partner. They did not speak of mere profits. They spoke of progress, of expansion, of legacy. And this principle does not only belong in the boardroom. It must govern your home. Let me speak plainly. If you desire to walk in your full God-given purpose, the person you join your life to in marriage will either bless that purpose or become its greatest resistance. A man may be brilliant, disciplined, convicted, but if the voice he hears each night is one of doubt, discouragement, or distraction, his steps will grow slower until he forgets he was even running. Marriage, my friend, is the most intimate mastermind. It is a covenant of vision, not convenience. If you are not yet married, do not be wooed by charm or temporary excitement. Ask this: does this person multiply my conviction? Do they challenge my lower self? Do they honor my divine assignment? Because when the fire is tested, and it will be tested, it is not beauty or banter that will sustain you. It is belief, shared belief. And if you are already married, understand this: you can begin again. You can rebuild your union into a mastermind through transparency, intention, and declaration. Begin with your friends. Audit your circle. Who is adding wood to your fire? And who is throwing water on it? Who listens to your vision and challenges you to double it? And who tells you to be realistic? These are not small matters. These are the architects of your atmosphere. And your atmosphere determines your acceleration. You must now become intentional. Form your mastermind. Choose men who are not impressed with you, but who expect more from you. Share your definite chief aim with them. Invite critique, not comfort. Meet weekly. Speak purpose. Pray purpose. Demand action. and in return, offer the same. The spiritual covenant of the mastermind says this: I am not here to be liked. I am here to help you remember who you are. That is the highest friendship. That is holy brotherhood. Now hear me well. If you cannot yet find men of fire, become the fire. Begin the group. Speak your vision out loud. Ask for divine appointment. Men of destiny attract others of destiny, and heaven responds to those who dare initiate. Let your family become the forge. Speak identity into your children. Don't just tell your wife she is beautiful. Tell her she is a vessel of purpose. Build your home on vision. Write the mission. Hang it on the wall. Declare your household a house of intention. You are not just building a career, you are building a cathedral of legacy. Let these affirmations anchor your new standard. I walk with men who sharpen me. My relationships are covenant, not convenience. The fire in me is fed by those who believe in my call. I lead my home with purpose, not with passivity. I attract men of destiny because I walk in destiny. The mastermind is sacred. It is heaven's tool for men who dare not walk alone. Build yours. Lead yours. Become the voice that sharpens others, and allow yourself to be sharpened in return. The tongue is the pen of your soul. It is by speech that men shape nations, and it is by speech that they sabotage themselves. For the tongue is not neutral. It either builds or breaks, blesses or buries, elevates or erodes. The man who speaks casually speaks carelessly, and the man who speaks carelessly lives powerlessly. Let me tell you now, life and death are in the power of the tongue, not metaphorically, but spiritually, mentally, materially. Every sentence you allow to pass your lips is either sowing destiny or digging a grave for it. A man of purpose cannot afford to be reckless in his speech. His words are bricks. His statements are scaffolding. What he builds with his mouth, he will eventually walk into. You may not have been told this, but every time you say, I'm tired, I'm broke, I'm not sure, you are not describing a condition. You are declaring an identity. And the subconscious mind, that obedient, impressionable servant, takes those declarations not as commentary, but as command. It does not know sarcasm. It does not know doubt. It only knows repetition. And what you repeat, especially with emotion, it engraves into your system and builds into your behavior. Understand this deeply. You are already practicing autosuggestion, but most men do so with negligence. They suggest defeat, fear, limitation, over and over, until those very suggestions become reflex. I'm trying. I hope. We'll see. These are not small phrases. They are spiritual seeds, and they reap hesitation, anxiety, and drift. It was Andrew Carnegie who demanded that negativity be expelled from the rooms in which he discussed business. He did not tolerate weak speech, not because he feared bad news, but because he understood that spoken doubt multiplies like a virus. A man may think doubt and kill it quickly, but if he speaks it, it enters the ears of others, and now the infection spreads. Your speech must be curated like sacred scripture. It must be rehearsed, refined, and repeated. Speak as if your words are chiseling stone, because they are. Speak as if angels are recording every declaration, because in the unseen realm that is not far from truth. Let me make it practical. You must begin to train your tongue like you would train a wild horse. It is powerful, but it must be governed. Begin each day not with reaction, but declaration. Stand alone if you must, and say aloud who you are becoming. I am the type of man who builds with faith. I speak what God has said about me. I do not confess fear. I confess future. Now some will say this is vanity, that you are speaking what you do not yet see. But they misunderstand faith. Faith does not wait for evidence. It declares what is not yet visible, and in that declaration draws it into being. Your present may not match your statement, but your repetition will force it to comply. Let me give you an exercise. Begin every conversation, every plan, every reflection with a directional phrase. That means instead of saying, I'm struggling with this, say, I'm overcoming this. Instead of saying, I hope I can, say, I'm building it daily. Speak your future as if it already bows to you. Because if you do not speak with authority, you will live under the authority of lesser men who do. And in your private moments, be especially vigilant. What you whisper when no one is around becomes the loudest command to your subconscious. Many speak with courage publicly, but rehearse fear in solitude. That must end now. Your private declarations must exceed the boldness of your public ones. That is how kings are made. Now let us install new affirmations, not for your ego, but for your programming. Every word I speak builds the future I live. I speak only what God has said about me. I do not use words to describe, I use them to design. I am the architect of destiny, and my tongue is the tool. My voice is loyal to my vision. Speak these aloud, daily, morning, and night. Let your family hear them. Let your circle be trained by them. Because your words do not just affect you. They create the environment in which your purpose will grow or die. Remember, the man who controls his speech controls his world. And the man who speaks in line with heaven will find that all of heaven moves to support his word. Fear seldom shouts. It does not come dressed in armor, demanding your surrender. No, fear is far more cunning than that. It whispers, it reasons, it arrives clothed in politeness. It uses words like reasonable, prudent, measured. It disguises itself in the language of intellect and logic, so that when you obey it, you don't feel like a coward. You feel like a thinker. But hear me now. Fear is not logic. Fear is betrayal. It is betrayal of your purpose, your potential, your divine assignment. It delays with soft hands and kills with slow poison. It convinces a man to put down his sword, not because the battle isn't worth it, but because the timing isn't right. It is a liar with good manners. And it has stolen more greatness from men than war, than poverty, than failure itself. When fear speaks, it says, wait and see. Be careful. Think it through a little more. Get a second opinion. And what do these words do? They buy time for doubt to grow. They install hesitation into your spiritual reflexes. They corrode the decisiveness you were born to wield. I have seen brilliant men lose decades to this voice. They had the idea. They had the vision. They had the calling. But they obeyed the voice of not yet. And in so doing, they lost the fire that was meant to ignite their legacy. You must understand, fear does not need to defeat you. It simply needs you to delay. Every moment you hesitate, it strengthens its grip. Delay is not neutral. It is obedience to the wrong kingdom. And if you obey fear, even dressed as wisdom, you betray the command placed inside you by God himself. Consider John D. Rockefeller, a man whose financial moves were once called madness. He was told he was too bold, too aggressive, too unorthodox. His critics masked their cowardice as financial advice, but Rockefeller did not entertain them. He had trained his instinct not to bow to voices of fear. He acted not because others approved, but because his internal compass demanded it. Look also to Thomas Edison. The man who brought us electric light was called a fool by nearly every reputable scientist of his time. His experiments were mocked. His failures were cataloged and published. The world said, be sensible. Stop wasting time. But he did not serve the world. He served vision. He obeyed the whisper of purpose, not the scream of criticism. What separated these men from the average? It was not genius. It was not access. It was that they refused to be polite toward fear. They treated hesitation as an enemy. And they never allowed delay to disguise itself as wisdom. This must become your creed. If the voice speaking does not come from conviction, it is not your counselor. If the thought in your mind says pause, you must ask it. Are you fear or are you faith? And if you detect fear, you must respond, not with argument, but with motion. You do not negotiate with fear. You override it. Let me give you an image. Imagine that fear is a well-dressed advisor who sits beside your throne. He speaks in calm tones. He always sounds concerned for your well-being, but every suggestion he gives ends with you doing less, not more. With you shrinking, not expanding, with you delaying, not deciding, and if you continue to heed him, you will find yourself sitting on a throne of potential with no kingdom in sight. You must remove this advisor. Today, fire him, replace him with a voice that says, act, begin, obey. Not recklessly, but faithfully, because faith is not rash, it is responsive. It does not ask for perfect conditions. It simply says, if this is what I am called to do, I begin now. Let us now declare aloud, not as suggestion, but as command. These affirmations must not be whispered. They must be pronounced with power. You must speak them not as the man you are, but as the man you are reclaiming. I do not speak with fear. I act now, not later. I do not delay. I decide. I am the type of man who hears doubt and moves anyway. Fear no longer commands me. I am led by vision. These are not simply positive thoughts. These are spiritual artillery. Each one, when spoken with emotion, penetrates the subconscious and trains the deeper man to stand when fear demands kneeling. Every time you say them, you are not hoping. They are not wishes. They are blueprints. Spoken into your inner world, they shape behavior without you realizing it, until one day fear will speak and your body will not obey. Your soul will rise. Your motion will begin. And the man God intended you to be will walk into his work without apology. It is a tragic misunderstanding of spiritual truth to believe that God blesses a man merely because he asks. Heaven is not in the business of handing over crowns to men who have not built the neck to carry the weight. The truth is more stern than sentimental. God will not entrust greatness to the man who has not prepared to steward it. The throne is not empty. It is guarded by responsibility. And only those who bear its burden with honor may sit upon it. Every purpose, every blessing, every increase comes wrapped in responsibility. A man may ask for wealth, but what he truly receives is a schedule to master. A man may pray for influence, but what he is granted is scrutiny, obligation, and long nights of decision. Power is not for the man who seeks applause. It is for the man who has tamed his appetites and mastered his motion. The world celebrates the outcome, the fortune, the fame, the building erected under one name. But I tell you now, God watches the handling. He watches what you do when no one notices, how you speak to your own time, how you command your energy, how you protect your soul from distraction. This is the forge of the king. Before the crown rests on your head, it must first be built into your habits. Look to Henry Ford. He did not merely build machines, he built systems. He understood that no amount of invention would matter if chaos ruled his operations. He brought structure where others brought sparks. His capacity to manage multiplied his reward. God trusted Ford with influence because Ford had first learned to govern himself. He did not work in reaction. He worked by ritual. Or consider Andrew Carnegie. When his fortune grew, he did not hoard it. He built structures to give it away. Institutions, libraries, scholarships, foundations, systems of stewardship. He understood that a blessing kept for oneself shrinks, but a blessing managed with vision multiplies across generations. He bore the crown of responsibility not as burden, but as proof that God had trusted him with higher purpose. So I ask you now, can God trust you with what you're praying for? Do your habits match your request? You ask for increase. Have you mastered consistency? You ask for leadership. Have you mastered discipline? You ask for freedom. Have you earned the right to govern your own thoughts? If you are to become the man God meant you to be, then your life must begin to mirror order, not perfection, but order. You must show heaven that you are not just inspired, you are aligned. And this alignment does not begin with others. It begins with your stewardship of the three holy currencies: time, energy, emotion. How do you treat your time? Is it flung away on meaningless distractions or scheduled with intention? How do you spend your energy? Do you give your best to your vision or to your vices? How do you rule your emotions? Are you tossed by the opinions of others or anchored in the identity heaven gave you? If you are ruled by your feelings, you are not yet ready to rule over anything else. A man of purpose must be a man of governance. He must master the smallest before he is trusted with the greatest. You must build systems for your focus, anchors for your thought, and altars for your discipline. Rise early and write. Declare your aim aloud. Guard your schedule like a gatekeeper of a great temple. Reject small talk that weakens your spirit. Cast out influences that pollute your mind. Structure is not restriction. Structure is respect for what you've been called to carry. If you cannot carry your habits with honor, how will you carry your purpose? And now, as we have trained the mind, let us train the inner voice. The voice that does not simply repeat thoughts, but programs them into motion. Repeat these not as suggestion, but as decree. Not as hope, but as identity. Say them aloud, with clarity, with emotion, until your bones believe them. I am the man God trusts with influence. My responsibility is proof of my readiness. I do not run from the weight. I was built to carry it. My habits reveal my identity. I govern myself, therefore I am trusted to govern more. Let these affirmations settle deep. Let them become your creed. Speak them daily until your subconscious obeys them as law. And remember, the blessing you seek will not come before the capacity is proven. The throne does not find the man becomes the throne, and then the crown is placed. There is a lie that has paralyzed millions of men. A lie so soft, so reasonable, it is rarely called what it truly is, disobedience. It sounds like wisdom. It dresses like caution. It whispers phrases like, wait until it's clear, wait for the right time, wait until you feel ready. But know this, and know it well. Obedience delayed is still disobedience. Faith is not belief in comfort. Faith is movement in absence of evidence. Faith is the invisible footstep planted when nothing in your world affirms your direction except the whisper within you, the whisper of God, the whisper of destiny, the whisper that says, go now. Do you believe? Then why are you still standing still? You say you are a man of purpose, and yet you delay. You say you have vision, and yet your calendar is ruled by hesitation. The men who became kings in history's pages were not men who waited for the conditions to be perfect. They were men who moved first and let their faith be confirmed by the fire they walked through. Consider Theodore Roosevelt. He was sickly as a child, physically broken, laughed at by his peers. And yet he did not pray for strength and then wait. He trained, he fought, he climbed, he boxed. He ran headfirst into discomfort because he knew faith without action was not faith. It was fantasy. He made his body obey his belief. And when his time came to lead, he did not tremble. He had already been tested in the hidden places. And what of Abraham Lincoln, a man mocked, beaten by defeat, politically outcast for years? Yet he did not wait for popular opinion. He did not wait for applause. He ran for office again and again, each time as if he had already seen the final victory. His failures were many, but his obedience did not stagger. And when the call to unify a nation came, he was not found scrambling for preparation. He was ready because his faith had moved daily before the world ever said yes. You must understand this. Heaven does not reward hesitation. Heaven responds to faith in motion. Many men wait because they believe that acting without proof is foolish. But I say to you, the opposite is true. The most foolish man of all is he who has received a divine instruction and then asked for more signs. You have already heard the whisper. You already know what to build, what to write, what to speak, what to leave, what to walk toward. But your feet disobey what your spirit knows. That is not humility. That is rebellion. Your purpose is not buried. It is suspended, waiting for your obedience to pull it into motion. When you act as if it is already done, you are not pretending. You are aligning. You are demonstrating faith, and heaven never ignores faith. There is a principle so misunderstood that most dismiss it. It is this: act now as the man who already possesses what he seeks. That is not delusion. That is decision. You want to be the man of influence? Begin walking as though your schedule is sacred. You desire to lead others? Begin speaking with the tone of a man who leads his own thoughts. You dream of building something timeless? Then act daily as the man who would be entrusted with such a task. You will not become him one day. You train him today. Faith is not a wish. It is a war cry. It is not gentle. It does not apologize. It does not knock. It kicks down the door of doubt and steps through with fire in its step. And now I ask you, not for an answer, but for obedience. What have you been waiting to do? Do it. What vision have you doubted because no one applauded it? Build it. What commitment have you delayed until things settle down? Declare it. This is not tomorrow's work. This is the man's moment. Faith delayed is purpose denied. Now let us speak the words that train the spirit, the mind, and the body to obey. Repeat after me, aloud, with certainty, not for volume, but for vibration. I do not wait. I walk. Faith is my daily action, not my wish. I am the man who moves before the world understands. I act from heaven's call, not man's approval. Today is proof of who I believe I am becoming. You are not waiting on favor. Favor is waiting on you. You are not waiting on clarity. Clarity arrives once motion begins. God has already spoken. Now you must walk. This journey was never about becoming someone new. It was about returning to the truth buried beneath fear, compromise, and hesitation. It was about peeling away the rust of years wasted in delay and remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. The man you were meant to be was never lost. He was merely neglected, hidden under layers of politeness, fear, overthinking, and drift. Greatness is not arrogance. It is not pride. It is the fulfillment of purpose, the natural result of obedience to the call that was placed within your soul before your first breath. You were not made for mediocrity. That is why it burns your bones when you see another man rise while you sit in silence. That ache in your chest is not jealousy. It is recognition. You recognize what you were supposed to be doing all along. You see it because you were born for it. The throne you gaze at was carved in your name, and the longer you wait to sit in it, the more pain you invite into your life. This speech is not a beginning, it is a return, a homecoming, a recrowning of a king who once abdicated the throne of his purpose out of fear of judgment, fear of failure, or fear of his own power. But hear me now, and hear me with your soul. There is nothing more dangerous to darkness than a man who remembers who he is. You were not called to blend in. You were not designed to echo the opinions of lesser men. You were built to command yourself, to master your tongue, your time, your thoughts, your temple, and in doing so, to walk with such clarity and courage that others rise just by being in your presence. The world does not need more influencers, it needs more commanders. Men who have tamed their fear and risen to live not by suggestion, but by divine instruction. Look at the life of Carnegie. The empire he built did not define him. His vow to give it all away for the betterment of mankind did. He remembered his purpose even when the riches and honors of the world tempted him to forget. And Ford, who did not conform to the times but shaped them. His factories were not just monuments of steel and speed. They were the physical embodiment of a man who aligned his labor to his vision, daily and without apology. Every time you hesitated, every time you knew what to say but bit your tongue, every time you shrank when you were called to rise, you were betraying the man you were meant to be. But that man has not died. He has not withered. He has simply been waiting for you to remember. Today, you do not start the climb. You resume it. You return to the sacred vow made long ago, the one your soul made with its Creator, the vow to live fully, to serve boldly, to build with excellence, and to walk without shame. So now write the vision, declare the aim, walk the road with fire in your bones. You are not lost, you are awakening, you are not weak, you are remembering, you are not waiting, you are rising. And so I speak these final words not to your ears, but to your spirit. You were never small, only silent. You were never broken, only buried. You were never forgotten, only waiting to obey. Now speak with me. Declare aloud what is already true. I am who I was always meant to be. God chose me, and I now choose Him fully. I no longer ask, I act. The crown I once abandoned, I now wear with honor. My return is my rebirth, and I walk in it without fear. Now rise, because the man you were meant to be has waited long enough.